Vasishta continued. We call it yoga, which is the method by which the cycle of birth and death ceases. It is the utter transcendence of the mind, and it is of two types. Self-knowledge is one type. Restraint of the life force is another. However, yoga has come to mean only the latter. Restraint of the life force. Yet, both the methods lead to the same result. To some, self-knowledge through inquiry is difficult. To others, yoga is difficult. But my conviction is that the path of inquiry is easy for all, because self-knowledge is the ever-present truth. I shall now describe to you the method of yoga. There are these two strands in the Yoga Vasishta, strand of self-inquiry and the strand of traditional yoga, which is exemplified by the practice of pranayama, which was clearly very popular at the time the Yoga Vasishta was written. I would say that the Yoga Vasishta clearly comes down in favour of self-inquiry. As it says here, it can be practiced any time. We don't need to worry about techniques. Once you start learning pranayama, once you start learning yoga, where does it stop? You start doing your yogic techniques. These yogic techniques involve yogic notions, yogic understandings, and then you find that, in order to do pranayama properly, you have to make sure your body is properly purified, and you have to do yogic purification practices, change your diet, change your lifestyle, and what's happened to the truth and all this? What's happened to self-knowledge, self-inquiry? Personally, I just wouldn't go there. Not because I've got any criticism as pranayama as such, but the only technique for realization, for self-knowledge, for self-inquiry is self-inquiry. And I think when we read this description, that is the conclusion which we'll come to, that you can do techniques like pranayama, they do have benefits, but the bottom line is only self-inquiry leads to realization of the self. It can't be realized through techniques, no matter how profound. So this is quite an extended story we're going to begin. And it takes place in a very mythological setting, quite a magical setting. And a lot of it is in keeping with the fruits of self-inquiry, although I think there are some yogic notions creeping in. But let's see how we get on. Vasishta continued. In the infinite and indivisible consciousness, there is a mirage-like world appearance in one corner, as it were. The Creator Brahma, who is the apparent cause for this world appearance, dwells there. This is quite an interesting way of putting it, isn't it? In a small corner of the infinite consciousness dwells all of creation. And this is putting things into the proper perspective. So in one corner of the infinite consciousness dwells the Creator Brahma with his world appearance. I am his mind-born son. Vasishta was created directly by Brahma. Once when I was in the heaven of Indra, I heard from sages like Narada the stories of long-lived beings. In the course of this discussion, the great sage Satatopa said, in one corner of the Mount Meru there is a wish-fulfilling tree known as Chuta, whose leaves are made of gold and silver. On that tree there dwells a crow known as Bhushunda, who is utterly free from all attraction and aversion. There is none on earth or in heaven who has lived longer than he has. He is not only long-lived, but he is also an enlightened and peaceful person. If any of you can live as he lives, that shall be regarded as a highly laudable and meritorious life. I heard these words. I was greatly inspired. Soon I set out to meet this Bhushunda. Instantly I reached that peak of the Mount Meru where Bhushunda lived. The mountain was radiant, comparable to the lustre of the yogi who through the practice of yoga has opened the cycle portal at the crown of the head and at the upper end of the nadi, known as the Sushumna. It is also known as Meru. The peak reached right up to heaven. So there's going to be quite a bit of yogic symbolism here. Mount Meru, which is the axis of the world, is also the Sushumna, this prime meridian, this prime channel of life force. The peak reached right up to heaven. There I saw the tree known as Chuta, whose flowers and leaves were radiant like jewels. It was a heaven-scraping tree. The celestials who dwelt on it filled the atmosphere with their songs. Perfected sages who could assume any form they liked also dwelt in it. It was an enormous tree of immeasurable dimensions. I saw the different types of birds that dwelt in that tree. I saw the famous swan, which is the vehicle for the creator Brahma. I saw the bird Shuka, who is the vehicle of the fire god, which was learned in the scriptures. I saw the peacock, which is the vehicle of the god Kartikeya. I also saw the bird known as Bharadvaja, as also other birds, and at a great distance on that tree I saw crows. Among them I saw the great Bhushunda, who sat there in utter tranquility and peace. He was beautiful, radiant and peaceful. This was the famous Bhushunda, the long-lived. He had lived through several world cycles. He remembered even those who lived aeons ago. He remained silent. He was free from I-ness and mine-ness. He was the friend and relation of all.